I fell in love with the man hunting my father. My name is Isabella M. I'm 29, and until a few months ago, I was a museum curator in New York. I lived a quiet, elegant life surrounded by art and silence, but every piece I hung on those walls reminded me of the life I'd been hiding from since I was 16. You see, my father was an international art thief, the kind of man who could walk into the Louvre with nothing but a cane and walk out with a painting worth millions, and nobody noticed until morning. They called him Le Spectre. I called him Papa. After his supposed death in a yacht explosion 15 years ago, I built a new life, changed countries, changed my name. For a while, I believed I'd escaped the shadow, until the night he returned. Not in person, but in the form of an FBI investigation. That's when I met Ethan Cole. He came to the museum during one of our private galas, pretending to be a wealthy collector, tall, calm, the kind of man who looks like he's already read the whole room before you even notice him. I knew instantly he wasn't who he claimed to be. His shoes were too practical, his watch too standard issue, and the way he scanned exits without turning his head, classic law enforcement. But I played along. I've always been good at pretending. He asked me about a painting, The Girl and the Falcon. I told him it was about loyalty and betrayal. He smiled like he understood both too well. We kept talking. Art, philosophy, little jokes that felt too intimate for two strangers. It was dangerous chemistry, the kind that hums under your skin even when you know it shouldn't. By the time I realized how drawn I was to him, the alarms went off. Someone had stolen the painting. My painting, and like every other theft linked to Le Spectre, a single white rose was left behind. The next morning, the museum turned into a crime scene. Ethan wasn't pretending anymore. Badge out, gun holstered, eyes colder. He questioned everyone. And when he reached me, the air between us changed. He wanted answers. I wanted to run. Were you near the exhibit before the alarms? He asked. Yes, I said. I was talking to you. He didn't like that answer. When he finally accused me of knowing more than I was saying, I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Then arrest me." He didn't. Instead, he looked hurt. That night, I went home and found a small envelope slipped under my door. No name, no address, just a white rose pressed inside. And a note written in my father's handwriting. He's closer than you think. Don't let him find me. I should have burned it. Instead, I stared at it for hours, torn between the father who raised me and the man whose eyes I couldn't forget. Over the next few days, Ethan kept coming back. Sometimes to question me, sometimes I think to see if I was lying, and sometimes just to see me. We'd talk late into the evening when the museum emptied, sitting on the marble stairs with coffee cups. He told me about his childhood in Chicago, about losing his sister to a car crash, about how art made him feel calm, like he could breathe again. And I told him nothing true at all, because if I did, I'd have to confess that my last name wasn't really Moreau. Then came the night everything shifted. He showed up at my apartment, drenched from the rain, holding a file folder. "I shouldn't be here," he said, "but I think you deserve to know." Inside the folder were photos of my father, alive. Security footage from a port in France just 2 weeks earlier. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped them. "Where did you get these?" "Interpol intercepted a shipment linked to him," he said. "We think he's planning another theft." Here, I felt my throat close. "You mean in New York?" "Yes." "Then softer. Isabella, if you know anything, you need to tell me. I can protect you." Protect me. If only he knew who needed protecting from whom. I don't know what came over me, but I kissed him. Maybe it was panic, maybe guilt, maybe the twisted comfort of being seen and still wanted. He hesitated for half a second, then kissed me back. It wasn't sweet. It was desperate, breathless, like two people falling off a ledge and choosing to fall together. When he left that night, I sat alone on the floor, my heart split clean in two, because I knew my father was alive, and I knew the man I was falling for was hunting him. And the worst part? I wasn't sure which one of them I was going to betray. When I wrote my first post here, I thought telling strangers would help me forget. It didn't. If anything, it brought everything back. The smell of rain, the sound of Ethan's voice. The night I had to decide who deserved my loyalty. After Ethan left my apartment that evening, I sat for hours with the photographs he'd shown me. My father, alive, older, still moving through the world like a ghost. The same man who taught me how to read brushstrokes, how to disappear, how to lie with elegance. The next morning I got a message from an unknown number, "Meet me where art breathes." I knew that phrase. It was something my father used to say when we visited the hidden vault beneath, the old museum in Marseille. It wasn't a place, it was a code. That night I found him. He was waiting for me in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Brooklyn. Hair silver now, beard short, but the same eyes, sharp as glass. "Ma fille," he said softly. "You came." For a second I was a child again, but then I saw what lay behind him. Crates, blueprints, digital locks. Another heist. Another betrayal. "You're alive," I whispered. "You let me think you were dead." He smiled like it was a joke. "Death is a luxury, Bella. I did it to protect you." I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But then he said something that broke me completely. "You've been seeing him, haven't you? The agent..." My blood ran cold. "How do you know?" He stepped closer. "Because he's been watching me through you." He handed me a small black device. A tracker, tiny enough to hide in a ring. The same ring. Ethan had returned to me that night when I dropped it near the museum stairs. "You're lying," I said, my voice trembling. He shook his head. "You think the FBI sends you flowers?" "He's using you, Bella. They always do." I left without saying another word, but that night I couldn't sleep. I replayed every moment with Ethan, every smile, every glance, every question he'd asked. Had he been investigating me the whole time? At 2 a.m., I decided to find out. I went to his hotel. He opened the door half awake, wearing only a t-shirt, confusion flickering into concern when he saw my face. "Isabella? What's wrong? Were you tracking me?" I asked, his brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" I threw the ring at him. It hit his chest and rolled onto the floor. "Don't lie to me." He bent down, picked it up, staring at it like he'd never seen it before. Then quietly, "I didn't plant this." "Then who did?" "Someone who wanted you to stop trusting me," he said. "Someone who knows how to turn people into weapons." I wanted to believe him. But before I could answer, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and went pale. "What is it?" "They hit the museum again." I froze. "What?" "The Van Gogh exhibit. Same signature, white rose." That's when it hit me. My father had set it up perfectly. While I was with Ethan, he was making his move. "I have to go," Ethan said, already grabbing his jacket. And I knew that if he found my father, he'd shoot him on sight. So I did something unforgivable. I followed him. And when the moment came, I made my choice. The museum was chaos. Red lights flashing, sirens echoing off marble. Ethan and his team moved through the corridors like shadows, guns drawn. I slipped through a side door, heart racing. In the restoration room, my father was waiting, holding the painting, smiling faintly when he saw me. "Good girl," he said. "You led him right to me." "What?" He nodded toward the door. "He's outside, isn't he?" That's when I realized it. This wasn't an escape. It was a trap. He wanted Ethan to find him, to die in the chaos, to vanish again under a new name while the Bureau mourned one of their own. I shook my head. "No, I won't let you." He raised his gun. Not at me, but at the door. Ethan burst in. 2 shots rang out, one from each side, and then everything went silent. When I opened my eyes, my father was on the floor, bleeding. Ethan stood in the doorway, hand shaking, gun smoking. He looked at me, not as an agent, not as a lover, but as someone who finally understood everything too late. "You knew," he said quietly. "You knew who he was." Tears blurred my vision. "I didn't want this." He lowered his gun. Neither did I. The FBI covered it up as a fatal confrontation during an operation. I was questioned for weeks, stripped of my job, placed under surveillance. Eventually, they let me go. But I never saw Ethan again. I heard he transferred to D.C., working cold cases. Sometimes, when I walk past the museum, I imagine him still there, standing in front of a painting, wondering if I ever loved him at all. I did. That's what makes it hurt. I still keep one thing in a box under my bed. A dried white rose, the last one he gave me before everything fell apart. And sometimes, when I touch its fragile petals, I wonder if love and betrayal were ever really 2 different things, or just the same feeling wearing different faces.